Throughout the 20th and 21st centuries, a hidden structure of power has quietly solidified beyond public view. It does not answer to votes or the people's will. Yet, it silently influences elections, economic collapses, and wars. This power moves in shadows, shaping history without being seen or questioned. While governments appear sovereign, real control flows through secret channels. Few notice the invisible hand guiding global events with chilling precision. Its influence is pervasive, yet expertly concealed, masked by layers of bureaucracy and misinformation. This hidden force is not a myth, but a reality carefully protected by those who benefit most. The question remains, how did this power grow so vast, and why does it stay hidden? Transnational organizations like the World Economic Forum, Bilderberg Group, and the Council on Foreign Relations have become hubs of this unseen influence. They meet behind closed doors, with no public records or media access. Only leaks and whistleblower testimonies provide rare glimpses inside. These groups gather the world's most powerful leaders, presidents, billionaires, and intellectuals who shape policy away from democratic scrutiny. Their discussions dictate global priorities, far from the public eye. These clandestine meetings create alliances that cross national borders, uniting government officials and private interests in a web of control. Their secrecy fuels suspicion and fuels countless conspiracy theories, yet undeniable facts emerge repeatedly. The artificial divide between left and right politics serves as a brilliant distraction. While the masses argue over parties, the real power brokers forge agreements that transcend ideology. Governments, central banks, and multinational corporations cooperate quietly, sharing common goals of dominance and profit. This convergence blurs traditional political lines, replacing democracy with oligarchy. By manufacturing conflict among the people, these forces keep their true intentions concealed. This strategy ensures compliance and prevents unified resistance. The public remains divided, unaware that their leaders often share the same agenda behind the scenes. This manipulation is not accidental but a calculated design of control. Modern democracy functions as a carefully constructed facade. Elections, debates, and public policies create an illusion of choice and freedom. In reality, power resides in hidden chambers where decisions are made without transparency. These secret gatherings dictate economic policies, military interventions, and social changes that affect billions. The democratic process becomes a stage for theater, distracting from the real governance taking place behind closed doors. Citizens believe they participate in shaping their future, while unseen forces steer the course with deliberate intent. This disconnect between appearance and reality is fundamental to maintaining control. What seems like democracy is, in truth, a mask for centralized authority. Leaked documents and classified files offer fragmented evidence of this covert system. Financial crises, regime changes, and global conflicts often follow patterns that hint at orchestration. Whistleblowers and insiders reveal hints of agendas focused on expanding surveillance, control, and economic dominance. These revelations are usually suppressed or dismissed, but the patterns persist. The deeper investigation uncovers a network of agencies, corporations, and secret societies intertwined in a complex web. Yet, despite these clues, the full scope of this hidden power remains elusive. What is uncovered is only the surface of a far more intricate and shadowy design. How far does this invisible network extend? What truths remain buried beneath layers of secrecy and deception? As more leaks and investigations surface, the public slowly grasps the extent of manipulation shaping their world. The silent rulers continue to operate undetected, confident in their control over global affairs. This secret architecture challenges the very notion of sovereignty and freedom. What consequences await if this hidden power is ever fully exposed? The answers remain concealed, but the questions grow louder, inviting us to look deeper into the darkness. Throughout recent decades, a hidden pattern emerges when we examine major global events. Nothing happened by chance. Each crisis, each catastrophe, seems to have been a step toward total control. From pandemics to wars and financial collapses, A carefully orchestrated chain of events subtly reshaped society. Fear was the tool of choice, wielded skillfully to manipulate entire populations. The more chaos unfolded, the easier it became to implement extreme measures, disguised as necessary for safety. Governments and shadowy agencies exploited these moments to tighten their grip, eroding freedoms little by little. Pandemics have served as powerful catalysts for this transformation. The 1918 influenza, the HIV/AIDS crisis, and most recently COVID-19 exposed how fear can be weaponized to justify sweeping restrictions. Health emergencies became opportunities to expand surveillance, enforce censorship, and normalize obedience. Yet, the roots of mass manipulation reach far beyond technology. Psychological conditioning and propaganda shaped collective behavior long before digital platforms existed. The subtle art of controlling minds evolved through decades of carefully planted narratives and social engineering tactics. Economic crises followed a similar blueprint. The Great Depression, the 2008 financial crash, and ongoing market instabilities fueled a climate of uncertainty. Panic-stricken populations willingly sacrificed privacy and autonomy in exchange for a semblance of security. Central banks, global financial institutions, and elite networks seized these moments to consolidate power behind closed doors. Under the guise of crisis management, new regulations and mechanisms emerged, some invisible to the public eye, setting the stage for unprecedented levels of control. Each collapse paved the way for more intrusive governance. Surveillance became the silent enforcer of this new order. Technologies designed to monitor and predict human behavior moved from experimental to essential. Cameras, data collection, biometric tracking, and digital footprints grew omnipresent. What was once dismissed as dystopian fiction became everyday reality. The line between protection and control blurred as governments and corporations formed uneasy alliances. Under the pretense of security, privacy eroded and dissent was muted. The tools of surveillance were normalized, accepted as unavoidable safeguards, while their true purpose remained hidden in plain sight. Censorship accompanied this rise in monitoring. Information flows were no longer free but filtered, curated, and censored according to invisible agendas. Alternative voices and inconvenient truths faced systematic suppression. Social media platforms transformed into gatekeepers of acceptable discourse, often acting in tandem with state actors. The justification? Protecting public order and safety. Yet, the consequences extended far beyond, stifling critical thought and eroding democratic debate. A culture of fear and self-censorship grew, feeding into the larger mechanism of control. This manipulation, however, is far from irreversible. Awareness is the first step to resistance. The conditioning that shaped society's submission is ongoing but not absolute. Questions linger. How deep does this control go? Which forces are truly behind the scenes orchestrating these events? Are we witnessing a planned progression toward a world stripped of privacy and freedom? Or is there still room for disruption and change? The shadows conceal more than we can imagine, and the next chapter in this dark saga is yet to unfold. Since 1954, in carefully chosen locations far from the media's eyes, global leaders have gathered annually in an event shrouded in absolute secrecy. The Bilderberg Group, named after a Swiss hotel where its first meeting took place, never publishes minutes nor allows journalists. What is discussed there is kept under strict confidentiality, but evidence suggests these are decisions that directly influence the fate of billions around the world. Leaked documents and insider accounts reveal the constant presence of presidents, prime ministers, monarchs, major CEOs, and renowned intellectuals. The nature of these meetings remains obscure, but the selection of guests and topics discussed provide clues about Bilderberg's real importance. Among attendees are names commanding global financial institutions, multinational corporations, and centers of political power. These elites discuss strategies that anticipate and shape geopolitical and economic events, often synchronized with crises and global changes that follow shortly after. The connection with organizations like NATO, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank is constant, indicating Bilderberg functions as an unofficial strategic core. Confidential reports and leaked documents suggest the group debates issues ranging from military conflicts, economic policies, to technological advances and global security. Topics such as migration control, internet regulation, and environmental crises are also on the agenda. The lack of transparency and absolute secrecy fuel conspiracy theories but also highlight the real power wielded there, away from public scrutiny. The influence of this hidden council is not limited to suggestions. There is evidence that its decisions are effectively implemented by governments and global institutions. Beyond political and economic power, Bilderberg is known for its ability to coordinate interests among governments, corporations, and central banks. This intertwining creates a complex network where the distinction between public and private sectors becomes almost invisible. What emerges from this scenario is a power structure that transcends national borders and ideologies, guided by an elite acting without accountability. This convergence, although officially denied, manifests itself in policies and events that directly impact everyday lives. Interestingly, the closed and secretive format of Bilderberg raises more questions than answers. How can such an influential group operate without any oversight? What is the true scope of the decisions made there? The silence surrounding its meetings is a powerful tool to maintain control, preventing the public from understanding the extent of this global engineering. What is being planned in the shadows? And to what extent do these choices affect the world's future without our knowledge? What makes Bilderberg much more than a simple meeting is its ability to set global agendas and influence the planet's largest institutions. What began as a discreet gathering today is considered the epicenter of modern geopolitical engineering, a council of shadows that shapes destinies without ever showing its face. The pieces of this obscure game continue to move silently, and the real enigma is what is yet to come. What will be revealed in the next meetings we will never know about. Since its unveiling at the World Economic Forum in Davos, the Great Reset has been heralded as a revolutionary plan to create a fairer and more sustainable global society. Official statements emphasize tackling inequality, environmental crises, and economic instability through systemic reform. But beneath the polished surface lies a far deeper agenda, a radical reorganization of social and political structures designed to centralize power like never before. The Great Reset is not simply a reform, it is the institutionalization of total control, cleverly disguised as progress. This shift promises sweeping changes that will alter the very fabric of daily life, reshaping human existence in profound and unsettling ways. One chilling slogan tied to the Great Reset declares, "You will own nothing and be happy." This phrase summarizes a dystopian vision where private ownership is eliminated, replaced by shared access controlled by powerful entities. Property rights, once fundamental, are now under threat, as are individual freedoms tied to possession and economic independence. Work and identity are also being redefined. Traditional jobs will disappear or morph drastically, replaced by systems that monitor and dictate behavior. The loss of autonomy is masked as collective good, yet it signals a future where personal choice is heavily restricted in favor of centralized governance. Central to the Great Reset is the implementation of social credit systems, digital frameworks that monitor, score, and regulate citizen behavior in real time. Paired with this is the push for a centralized digital currency that would phase out cash, giving authorities unprecedented oversight and control over all financial transactions. While proponents argue these tools ensure fairness and security, the implications are terrifying: total surveillance and economic dependency on the ruling elite. Privacy would become obsolete, and financial freedom would be exchanged for a system that punishes dissent and enforces conformity through technology and data. Critics warn that the Great Reset is a veiled power grab by global elites aiming to remake society according to their vision, using crises as justification. Abolishing private property and imposing social credit scores and digital money concentrate authority in unaccountable hands. This new regime would transform citizenship into a conditional status, where compliance is rewarded and resistance punished by withholding access to essential services. The so-called progress thus becomes a tool of oppression, eroding democratic principles and individual sovereignty under the guise of a necessary global transformation. The narrative of sustainability and equity serves as a smokescreen, concealing the authoritarian reality lurking beneath the Great Reset. Genuine global challenges exist, but the top-down solutions proposed bypass democratic debate and consent. Power is increasingly concentrated in supranational institutions and corporate conglomerates, weakening nation-states and undermining personal freedoms. This emerging new order operates in shadows, beyond accountability and transparency, steering humanity toward a future controlled by an elite few who dictate the terms of life, freedom, and survival. Ultimately, the Great Reset signals a paradigm shift in global governance, a new era defined by surveillance, control, and the dismantling of individual rights. It's not merely a policy proposal but a fundamental redefinition of the relationship between citizens, states, and markets. As this vision advances, it forces a critical question upon humanity: will we accept a future where autonomy is sacrificed for control, or will we resist the imposition of a global system that threatens to erase the very essence of freedom? While Bitcoin symbolizes digital freedom and decentralization, a new player emerges on the global stage: Unity Coin. Unlike cryptocurrencies that champion privacy and autonomy, Unity Coin represents a state-controlled digital currency designed for unprecedented surveillance. Every transaction made with Unity Coin is meticulously recorded, tracked, and analyzed, eroding any semblance of financial anonymity. This digital currency is not just a means of exchange, it is a mechanism for total oversight, giving authorities the power to monitor and influence individuals' spending in real time. What appears as progress in financial technology hides a darker reality: the birth of an economic system under constant watch. Central banks around the world have accelerated experiments with central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, of which Unity Coin is a prime example. These digital currencies are intended to replace physical cash entirely, erasing the last vestige of private monetary exchange. But their capabilities extend far beyond convenience. With Unity Coin, governments could freeze accounts without warning, impose automatic fines, or restrict purchases based on behavioral criteria. This level of control transforms money from a neutral tool into an instrument of compliance, where economic freedom becomes conditional on obedience to state rules. The elimination of cash is a crucial step in this new paradigm. Physical money has long served as a private and anonymous method of transaction, protecting citizens from surveillance and censorship. Unity Coin aims to extinguish this refuge, replacing it with a fully traceable and controllable system. Privacy in financial matters becomes a relic of the past, as every cent spent, saved, or transferred is logged and subject to scrutiny. The implications are profound. Personal financial autonomy gives way to state-enforced financial behavior, embedding control deep into daily life. Critics argue that Unity Coin is less a currency and more a digital shackle, a modern-day chain binding individuals to the will of unseen overseers. The potential for abuse is staggering. Authorities could manipulate economic activity, suppress dissent by restricting access to funds, or enforce political compliance through financial penalties. The line between governance and authoritarianism blurs as economic participation becomes conditional and nonconformity is punished not only socially but economically. This system threatens to transform citizens into subjects under constant monetary control. The rise of Unity Coin symbolizes a broader shift toward an economy under total surveillance, where freedom is sacrificed on the altar of security and control. While proponents tout increased efficiency and reduced crime, the cost is the loss of financial privacy and autonomy. This digital currency is a critical tool in a growing framework aimed at monitoring and regulating every aspect of human behavior. The economic landscape is being reshaped, not for the people, but for those who seek to dominate it. Ultimately, Unity Coin exposes the harsh truth behind the digital currency revolution. It is not about liberating individuals but about binding them to a new system of control. This invisible chain threatens to redefine the meaning of economic freedom and privacy in the 21st century. As governments push forward with these technologies, the question remains: will society resist this creeping surveillance or willingly surrender its financial independence for the promise of security? Artificial intelligence is no longer just a tool to simplify daily tasks. It has evolved into a powerful instrument designed to identify, catalog, and predict dissident behavior. In this new era, the enemy of the system doesn't wield weapons, it carries ideas. Governments and security agencies increasingly rely on AI-driven surveillance to monitor ideological threats before they even manifest. These systems analyze vast amounts of data to flag individuals who deviate from accepted norms, turning thoughts and beliefs into potential risks. The digital gaze is relentless, and those who challenge the status quo find themselves under the invisible scrutiny of algorithms. National security apparatuses use AI to scan communications, social media, and public discourse, hunting for signs of anti-establishment sentiment. Advanced algorithms detect subtle patterns in language and behavior that might indicate dissent or unrest. This preemptive approach transforms the concept of threat from physical actions to mere ideas and expressions. Predictive systems synthesize biometric data and historical records to forecast potential subversion, effectively criminalizing thoughts before they translate into acts. The implications of such surveillance extend far beyond traditional law enforcement, threatening fundamental freedoms. These AI-driven systems operate on data harvested from countless sources: facial recognition cameras, voice analysis, online activity logs, creating detailed profiles of individuals. Every gesture, word, or movement can be interpreted as a signal, feeding into complex models that assess risk. The boundary between reality and prediction blurs, as people become defined by algorithms rather than their own actions. Such technology, while presented as neutral and objective, carries the biases of its creators and serves specific agendas. Its neutrality is an illusion. The code reflects the will of those who program it. The central theory here is that AI is never neutral. It is a tool wielded by those in power to maintain control. Far from a benevolent force, artificial intelligence in security contexts becomes an enforcer of conformity, suppressing dissent by design. The algorithm acts as judge, jury, and executioner, deciding who poses a threat based on opaque criteria. Those flagged by the system risk surveillance, censorship, and even detention without clear cause. This digital oppression operates beneath the surface, often hidden from public view, yet shaping social order profoundly. As AI's reach expands, so does the capacity for social control masked as protection. The promise of safety comes at the cost of freedom to think, speak, and resist. The specter of an omnipresent, predictive algorithm chilling free expression is no longer science fiction but a growing reality. Communities and individuals may find themselves self-censoring out of fear of being marked as threats by unseen digital eyes. This technology transforms society into a panopticon, where everyone is watched and autonomy is systematically eroded. Ultimately, artificial intelligence reveals itself as a mechanism of suppression rather than liberation. It is a reflection of the power structures that create and deploy it, reinforcing hierarchies and silencing opposition. The question that lingers is chilling. In a world governed by AI, what room remains for dissent? How long until ideas alone are enough to condemn a person? The algorithm does not forget, and neither does the system it serves. From Clinton to Macron, global leaders rise to power shortly after attending closed-door forums. These gatherings are not mere coincidences but carefully orchestrated meetings where the fate of political careers is shaped far from public eyes. Behind the scenes, the real decision-makers mold campaigns, secure funding, and coordinate media strategies, ensuring that the candidates who align with specific agendas reach the highest offices. Voters witness only the final act, unaware that the players on stage have already been chosen. Politics becomes a theater where democracy serves more as a ritual of validation than as a genuine mechanism of choice. Pre-election participation in elite meetings like Bilderberg is a crucial step in securing political ascension. These exclusive forums offer networking opportunities with powerful financiers, media moguls, and influential think tanks, all working to shape global policy. The candidates who emerge from these gatherings with backing are then propelled by coordinated campaigns that dominate headlines and public discourse. This synchronization of power ensures that political narratives favor the interests of the elite, while dissenting voices remain marginalized. The facade of democratic choice conceals a far more controlled reality. Financial support plays a decisive role in this covert selection process. Candidates aligned with the prevailing agenda receive massive funding from shadowy sources, enabling overwhelming campaign machinery. Media outlets linked to these networks amplify their messages, drown out opposition, and frame political debates to suit strategic objectives. Political rewards await those who comply, including key appointments and influence over international policy. In contrast, those who resist are often sidelined or silenced, reinforcing a system where power is concentrated among a select few. The central theory is stark: democracy functions primarily as a ceremonial validation. The so-called electoral process is a performance staged for public consumption, while the true choices are made behind closed doors. The electorate's role is reduced to casting votes within predetermined boundaries, with little influence over real decisions. This controlled system perpetuates the dominance of an entrenched elite, maintaining the illusion of participation while denying genuine agency. Democracy's promise of representation becomes hollow under this shadow government. This covert orchestration challenges the very foundation of political legitimacy. When leaders owe their rise to secretive cabals rather than popular support, trust in democratic institutions erodes. Citizens become disillusioned, sensing that their voices are unheard and their choices meaningless. This growing skepticism fuels social unrest and conspiracy theories, further destabilizing the political landscape. The shadow politics at work is not just a theory, it shapes the world's most powerful governments and policies. Ultimately, the question remains: if the elected are chosen long before votes are cast, what hope exists for real change? The stage is set, the script written, and the actors selected by unseen hands. In this grand spectacle, democracy is but a shadow play, where the true power lies in the hands of those who never face the public eye. And you, the viewer, are left to wonder, who really holds the strings? Throughout this video, we have explored how global leaders are chosen and shaped in secret meetings, away from the public eye. We saw how political campaigns are financed and directed by powerful groups, while the media and think tanks work to ensure that only those aligned with the hidden agenda reach power. Democracy, in this context, becomes an illusion, a theater where the audience believes it has a voice, but the decisions have already been made behind the scenes. This dark reality invites us to reflect: how free are we really to choose our leaders? And what if the true leaders have already been selected by invisible hands? If you believe politics is more than it seems, like this video, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to never miss another dark revelation. Share this content with those who seek to understand what hides behind power. After all, knowledge is the only weapon against invisible control. And you, do you think democracy is a spectacle or a planned farce?